The following presentation is part of the Technology and the Corporation Conference Series, sponsored by MIT's Industrial Liaison Program.
Thanks, Eduardo. Good afternoon. Welcome back from the lunch break. Here we go. So it's really my pleasure to be here in Madrid, in Spain. Thanks to the Fundación for the kind invitation, and I'm happy that every time that I travel with the ILP somewhere else from MIT, I listen to my colleagues, and it's also inspiring for me to see my colleagues' presentations. So today what I'm going to do, I will give you a brief introduction of my research lab, the design laboratory, and then I will walk you through our approach, and then talk to millennials, some of the work that we do with millennials. So I will do very quickly so we have some time for comments or discussion. The design laboratory, first of all, is a research lab that I direct, and I have founded with Bill Mitchell that you see here. Bill Mitchell was one of the great MIT professors and thinkers, a true inspirational designer for those who had the pleasure to meet or be in touch with Bill. My research lab, just to give a very short, a quick glimpse of our approach, I have about 5 keywords that are important to us. Number one, our research lab is truly multicultural. As the panel that you have seen, we have researchers coming from everywhere. We have a lab about 20 people, and our cultural differences are not an obstacle, but we bring our differences in our project, and this enrich our project and our work. You can imagine when we have designed a connected home, an Italian discussing with an Indian and American on how do you design the kitchen or the table, like what's the experience around food, for example. So it's really an enriching experience. Second keyword, at MIT there are 5 schools, and we don't have a unique set of skills, but we have researchers from all the 5 departments and more. So we don't have unique set of skills, but we bring together different disciplines. You have heard earlier, there is a debate or a discussion going on about multiple discipline, pluridisciplinary, or anti-disciplinary. The fact is, in my opinion, you need to have to master a discipline to be able to go beyond your boundaries and explore other disciplines and be able to position and confront yourself with others. So we bring students from very different departments. Number 3 is MIT motto is mens et manus, which basically means that we're really trying to combine academic, scholarly driven research with very hands-on work. Previously, the middle motto was demo or die, a little bit more radical. But still we're trying to combine hands-on and scholarly driven research. We are a heavily human-centered research lab. So my background is as a designer and social scientist. And what we do, we're trying to understand humans to design technology for humans rather than designing humans for technologies. That's maybe sounds cliche, but is at least what we try to do. Number 5, this notion to unfocus. We have somehow the luxury to work in the academia, so we're really trying to push the boundaries and to see things from different perspectives. These are like few keywords about our lab that characterize our lab and our research. Now, a few keywords about design that is for us important. And when I talk about design, you may recognize this object. When I talk about design, I'm not talking about a product or an object. This is a fantastic object. It's really beautiful. The material is really nice. The shapes, the forms, the balance between materials and forms are nice. But it is an orange squeezer, lemon squeezer. But if you try to make an orange juice, we scratch the counter on your kitchen, you have orange juice all over your pants. And so it's very beautiful. So and you know, this is more an exercise of an artist, a great artist like Philip Starr. So it's a really beautiful object. So you know, you should actually get it, but not for pressing oranges. But so this is not what we think. Another step is, this is a Ferrari Testarossa 250, and the reason why I'm bringing this is that for the first time, like a great designer and a great car manufacturer went together to apply design into optimizing the behavior of the product, the car. So Enzo Pininfarina and Enzo Ferrari, they went together to really apply design not only as a way to add a layer of aesthetic, but how through design you optimize performances. But so there's a very good collaboration between design and engineering. But still, there is another layer that is what is defined as design thinking. So how many of you are familiar with design thinking? Perfect. So I will go very quickly. We all, few points. For us, design thinking, as I said, is never about the product, but it's really how do you understand society or a context, and then how do you learn from humans, from cultures, and then how you design a product, a service, or a technology to fulfill and improve human experiences. Sounds very simple. You look at people, you try what they need, and you design something, but it's actually super complex. But anyway, this is experience-based. And the second keyword for us is basically design for us is always problem-making first, then problem-solving. So that's a very key and important difference. Again, semantically seems simple to understand and to grasp, but then when you are in the situation of doing work and project with that approach, it's very complex. The last point is, and we touched a bit, another important point for us about design is mission-driven, it's value-driven, never market-driven. So our projects are, again, mission, value-driven, not market-driven. So ask yourself, when is the last time that you made a decision based on the values rather than market? So when is the last time, when you go to a restaurant and you want to feed your kids, you're really trying to question, is this food good? And you pay attention. So you're trying to, apply a value matrix. But you don't think, what people says about this food, and if people, if my kids should eat, McDonald's or any food. So that is very important to us. Design thinking through making. This is why I don't know if we apply design thinking, and it's questionable, but at least encapsulate a bit what we do. But what we do is really design thinking through making, and we utilize prototyping as a tool to think. Never prototype to embody and show a final solution. So we don't start to prototype to optimize a system, but we prototype at the very early stage of the process to think through. And there's a huge difference. Both ways to prototype are good, but they're very different. And we can prototype, yes, this is we can prototype physical spaces. So we prototype, in that case, a welcome center for MIT. So we applied and we did what we call body storming. So we prototype a physical space, like a retail, and then we bring people in to body storm and navigate through the space, and we try to deliver a service and see how people behave in the physical space. So that took us about 2 weeks. And we prototype very soon and very early in order to be able then to jump into design solutions. So that was, again, that has been made when the MIT asked us to help to rethink the Atlas Center, which is where basically all MIT employees go and get their own ID, transportation passes, basically where MIT provides services to its own students and employees. So that was one. We have done this exercise, and then this is the final results. This is the render, and then is the final space. So again, we quickly prototype. This was, I think, another example where we have been working with Bradesco, which is a Brazilian bank that you may know, and we have prototype because we have prototype a physical branch of a bank in a very short period of time, and then we stay a couple of weeks with about 300 employees from Bradesco to understand and design and apply new digital services. So, and I will skip through quickly to that. So that's what happened. So before talking to millennials, I want to, I will show one research project that we have done that's really trying to explain or illustrate how we're trying to understand humans and embody values. And the project is about smoking. How many of you smoke cigarettes? You guys, you should try smoking. It's like, for those who don't smoke, smoking is fantastic. Cigarettes are a tremendous object. The problem is that they will kill you, so actually you shouldn't try to smoke. But smoking is a great experience. So we went through a research and design phase where really, basically, we're trying to understand the experience and the value of smoking, which those who smoke, they know, but there is a tremendous set of values on smoking. And then we create what we call a value map. So we extract those values from human experience, and we put cartographies of values trying to understand. So those who smoking, one of the great aspects of it is the notion of taking a break from the active life. Those who smokes, for example, in company, are the one who are the most informed about companies' lives and everything that's happening. So if you go downstairs and spend 5 minutes every 2-3 hours and chit-chat with colleagues, you know everything about everyone. This is where things happen. So what we have done in that case is, you know, in order to capture this value, we design a cup that has the properties of keeping your coffee warm, but also enable you to record some thinking and share your thoughts with your colleagues. So basically, we're trying to embody those values into a technological, connected, enhanced object, a cup, and mimic those values. So that was one experiment. Again, basically trying to understand human values and duplicate those. Another value was those who use smoking as a means to meditate and relax. So we create a book where you place your hand on the cover of the book, understand your stress level, and then point you to a particular page where you put your finger on that page, and the page recognizes you, and show a poem that is designed and made for you that slowly is unveiled to you and invite you to meditation. So that's another way to capture some values of cigarettes, trying to avoid the killing effect of smoking, but providing the same good value. So again, these are like some provocative ideas that I wanted to mention to how we apply design around users and then how we customize technologies. And all this, what is complex, is really to extract the human values. And this is true for many other elements. So back to one of the interesting points that I would like to discuss is millennials. Millennials, there are many reasons why we look at millennials, but first of all, we do applied research, and we use what we call thick data, which basically means trying to capture from the street and from the experience of people relevant information or insights that then we can cluster and apply to our own research. So our work doesn't mean to be universally accepted, but is an inspirational work that we then apply to our design and our processes. Millennials, there are these millennials will be like one of the 2.5 billion people in 2020, will be like one of the largest populations. And the fact is that millennial will have more spending power than any other generation. So it's definitely an interesting cluster of the population that we can trying to address. We have about, and one of the things that is interesting, millennials, they're not only looking at what happened in our societies, but through their companies and entrepreneurship, they create the technologies that we all lived in, just Facebook, Google, or Snapchat. So they have a true impact. We have about 8 major trends that we have used that I can go through quickly. First of all, millennials are digital native. What does it mean is that millennials, they haven't known a life without connectivity. They haven't known a life without a personal device always connected in their pocket. But there are like several interesting repercussions about that. So for example, millennials want immediacy. What does it mean searching for immediacy for a brand or for a corporation that want to talk to millennial? I see like at least 3 main issues. Number one, immediacy means that millennials are the on-demand generations. They want to have access anywhere, anytime to information, to products or goods. So how do you design for that? Second, millennials, they want to have a direct relationship with the brand, with the market. So they bypass agents. Things like banks or insurance company, they leave agents outside the picture. They want to have a direct relationship, and they purchase directly from companies. Like 70% of millennials, they purchase directly from companies and bypass agents or intermediaries. And 3, this notion of transferability, which means that they do expect the same quality of service across services. So once that you are able to call a Uber, just to make an example, like being in Madrid maybe, if you can call a Uber, and with 2 clicks, and you can have a physical driver with a physical car in front of your door in less than 2 minutes, they pick you up and know where you need to go. While when you call a customer service online, you have to wait 30 minutes before talking to a human person. Why? Yeah. So you transfer the high expectations from one service to another, and you search. So the competition is broader than what we think. Second point, purpose matter. Millennials, they want to buy or stick with brands that have a purpose. One of the brands that, or one of the company is, for example, Lemonade is an insurance company. I've heard there are insurance company or bank, financial companies in the room. Lemonade is an insurance company that highly leverage on AI and computing. And basically, there are like 3 main characteristics of Lemonade. There is basically a flat fee for claims. Basically, the company paid the leftover money of your subscription to a non-profit organization of your choice. So you pay a fixed claim, and the leftover money is donated by a non-profit organization that you choose. So there is a transparency of the fee, but also there is a purpose. So you stick with a company that can support a cause that you like. And of course, another important point is immediacy. I'm sure you have all went through a claim process with an insurance company. You know what's the world speed record of claim reimbursement of a company? It's 3 seconds. So from the moment an accident happened, the moment the guy said something happened to me and email Lemonade, to the moment Lemonade replied back saying, this is the transaction, I wired the money into bank account, 3 seconds. So there is an immediacy effect, an efficiency effect that is very good. I will go through a few other points, like millennials are story doers. Basically, you don't look at things, you don't buy things, but you buy a system of relationship more than a product, which is very different. So what is the first thing that you do when you go to a restaurant? You take a picture of your food, and you share this information, and you start to have a conversation. So basically, you take a picture, and you start a conversation, and the experience and the reward of a conversation is even higher than the food itself. So in that case, there is millennials are story doer, and when you think related to brands and market and consumer products, millennials, they trust reviews, so they're reviewer hunting. Almost 90+% of millennials, they read reviews before making a purchase. And secondly, they believe more peer-to-peer conversation than direct marketing from the top, from friends. So that's fifth, millennials are what we call self-sustaining prosumers, which basically means that you are in the society where you consume and produce at the same time, and there is all the DIY attitude. You buy, build, make, and customize products. And I'm not thinking only to the bump of 3D printer, but many other products that are personalized and customized. Number 6, millennials are what we call forever learners. Basically, playfulness or embedded learning into products is key. We are at the end of the linear society where you learn something and then you apply what you have learned for your entire life. But learning is embedded from the first day of our life till the end of our days, which was a little bit different in the past. Just to give an example of an insurance company, where basically this is the society of grown-up. It's a good experiment happening in Boston, where basically they try not to send an insurance, not to sell a product to millennials, but it's basically a platform where they educate millennials to money, to grow up with money and grow up with how an insurance company or how a bank can grow and progressively learn with millennials from the first day of their life till the end. So it's more a symbiotic relationship that you start to have. Millennials as experience sampler. There is a very interesting trend about having personalized products delivered to you, so you don't buy one product as unique transaction, but you subscribe to a service, and this service become an ongoing conversation with the brand. So Letote or other brand, you basically personalize your character when you log in, and you create a character of yourself, where through the AI system, the system start to understand who you are and what you need, and they send you packages every month at home, and you progressively evolve. So you don't stick with one, but you experience sampler from a variety of concepts. Finally, last point, millennials, sharing with strangers is the norm, which is for many of us is a contradiction of what we have been told when we were younger. Where basically, we have been told, don't enter in a car with a stranger. That was the message from parents. Now it's the opposite, actually enter in a car with a stranger, that there is something interesting potentially there. So access versus ownership is where we are. You access to product, you access to things, you access to good, and you think, access to music, through Spotify, to content through Netflix, to knowledge and information through Wikipedia, GitHub, access to funding to sponsor your project, Kickstarter, and so on. Again, access to mobility. You don't only own a car, but you need to access to mobility. So Uber is a good example. But what is also interesting, you can reserve a ride with a VC. This was like what happened in Boston. Basically, you reserve a car ride, and then you spend 20 minutes with a VC seated by you, and you can pitch your own idea of startups, or probably in Boston, startup on tech, on biotech. You can reserve a ride and have a flu shot during the health season. So I don't know how much you trust the taxi driver to give a flu shot, but that's at least the idea. You can have ice cream or corn, but basically, you have a ride, and this ride comes with experience, and that's probably what is interesting. So these are like some of the topics that we have identified that really help us to think. Again, this is not a universal, statistically viable approach, but this is a way for us to start to capture silent trends and messaging from people by talking to humans is really talking and using thick data rather than big data in order to build internal knowledge than to design. I still have about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and I would like to go through what we see as a paradigm shift that is being discussed today in terms of technologies. So in the, we have seen like one of the earlier discussion today was how do we see the paradigm shift and the impact of new technologies in our life. So if you think back to 1990, was really the rise of digital technologies, the invention of the web, 1994. Bill Mitchell wrote a book called City of Bits, 1995, which was one of the most inspirational books of what today we call smart cities. Nicholas Negroponte wrote a book called Being Digital. So if you have half a day to spend, go back and read one of those books and see what happened since then and what is, today all what was said in the past is almost obsolete. But basically in the 1990s, and then those books was hugely visionary, and now it's almost past. And then we are in a, what you hear today also in terms of artificial intelligence, that was science fiction a few years ago. Now we're, consciously or not, we all are based and use AI one way or another. So it's no longer a science fiction, but it's something that is with us in everyday life. And there are many interesting discussions that we can have around that. The second period in the year 2000, the physical, where the notion of Internet of Things or object communicating to objects start to happen, wearable computing, again, in the year 2000 sounds like magic, how my shoe can talk to my table without me having something to say, but now all what was the IoT in the past is really relevant today. Some of the, one product that actually somehow have all these elements together is the Tesla car. I have a couple of things to say. Number one, what is interesting about this product is you buy a car and then you upgrade the product through Wi-Fi upgrade system, and then you can download functionality. So you buy a car and then you want to download the autopilot functionality for $3,000, you can do it overnight. So you buy a product and then you customize and you try to figure out how to use it. This graph shows human driving versus autopilot driving. So human driving, probably they're flat, so they go like more left and right. In the traffic lanes, autopilot is more precise. But what is even more interesting is basically Tesla collect about 4 million kilometers data per day. What this means that every day you have 4 million kilometers of data that you can analyze. And then you inject back into the car what you have learned from this analysis, basically real time. And that's really interesting because basically you build a product and this product learn and evolve pretty quickly. So 4 million kilometers of data today, and this keep evolving. So Tesla has been able to, for example, to reduce this, like from the US Minister of Transportation, data shows that in 1 year of data collection, Tesla reduced by 40% the accident. So only 1 year of data collection. So you can see how with the improvement of technology, with the improvement of software, and with the expansion of data collection, how you can really increase the ability for Tesla to increase the performances of the product that they're selling. This graph shows actually this video shows something also very interesting, is that Tesla is starting to shift the behavior of the car from predicting the accident, which is super interesting. So the car, you don't have the audio, but the car basically knows that you're going to have an accident before even the driver knows it. And that's a very interesting point, and for us is very intriguing because we are used to the reverse, basically, picture. You live your life, you drive a car, then you have the experience, you have the accident, so you experience the accident and then you take some action. In that case, you have to design for an experience that happened before a fact. So you need to design a car that behaves before you feel this experience of accident. So basically, you invert the picture in a very interesting way. What is still interesting with Tesla is you see how it is designed with an ecosystem of services. Basically, this shows how you can talk to your Alexa and tell to your garage door to open the garage door and take your car out. But it's very simple technically, but the point is that you really design a system that works within an ecosystem of services without boundaries and between multiple agents and partners. So that's very different. Finally, with Tesla, this is a picture took in Highway 101 in San Francisco, autopilot. You know, technological advancement is interesting. I don't know how much we are ready to see sleeping drivers passing by us in high-speed traffic highways. So there are a lot of improvements that need to be made. And we may get used to this image in a few years from now, but it's still, how do you design new interface that take into account different technologies and behaviors? And then one last point that is pretty trivial, but when it's up to humans to make decisions is one thing. When through coding, through AI, and through software, you can infer decision-making to a car, what happened when a car needs to make a choice? So the dilemma that has now been raised, when the car is going through a street and there is a kid or a family crossing the street, the car needs to make a decision in case of danger. Either you kill the family, or you divert the car against the wall and you kill potentially the passenger. So when you're driving, you are unpredictable. You don't know which type of choice. We all will say, I will never kill a baby. But you never know what can happen. It's really unpredictable. But when it's up to the software making this decision, is different. So who is controlling the software? What are the type of discussion that we need to have in order to have this type of control? And in that case, probably the political level or ethical discussion about AI is very strong. How many minutes I have more?
2 minutes with the questions.
2 minutes?
No, 12.
12 minutes. I will have like the three. We said first period was the 90s, digital. Second period, physical, year 2000. Today we are in the biological. So what happened and what we are doing today with big data and electronic communication is interesting, but in 10 to few years from now, the biological sphere is exploding, and probably the impact will be even more disruptive of what the data has been doing to our societies. So I'm not talking, this is like in the introduction, Carl mentioned our president that he was talking about tough research. So this we will see the impact in 10, 15 years from now, but let's start to think today. If 20 years ago when we started to say to companies you should have a digital innovation lab, companies said, well, we have our IT department, but was not about digital experiences. Now we're saying you should have your biodesign lab to rethink innovation in a very interesting way. So I'm not talking about only precision medicine, which is interesting. So basically molecular medicine is revolutionizing healthcare. So healthcare once were mainly depending on killing germs, basically. Now most of the drugs are used to fine-tune people at the DNA level, which is different. One of the most interesting technologies is CRISPR. You may have heard about CRISPR. So it's a DNA editor where basically you are able to edit your DNA and program human life. This can be fantastic in medicine to fight some medicine, but can be, of course, you can see, absolutely dangerous from ethical and moral implications. A little bit less dramatic, you can start to imagine imagining things, how you can apply design to imagine products. So for example, Biomason, they are growing bricks that you can use to build your own house. So you can grow bricks out of bacteria, but what is interesting is that you can infer bacteria some behavior. So for example, the bricks can absorb pollution, be more energy efficient, or have more audio insulation capability. So you grow, metaphorically, you grow a house. You don't build it. You grow a house, and you put at the DNA level of the bacteria that will grow your house the behavior that you want to have over your house, more energy efficient, for example. We all have just lunch. We have delicious burgers. So you can have in vitro meat. We're basically edible muscle that muscle tissue that grow from animal stem cells in a factory. So meats that doesn't require animals. I'm not sure about the taste. I haven't. They run this. They called the Impossible Burger, like in the MIT bar for a few weeks, but I couldn't taste it. But anyway, that's interesting. But what we do in our lab, we really trying to work with sensors. It is a new way to collect data and to infer behavior. So we prototype, as I mentioned before and showed before, we can prototype physical spaces like a bank. We have prototype a bank. But then we can also prototype through bacteria. So for example, what we have done is we have utilized bacteria to create tattoo for runners, for example, that basically are more efficient to sense some information and to communicate some information to the user. So a tattoo that can sense your UV exposure when you run, or a tattoo that can sense your loss of iron. So electronically, you can sense many things through your smartwatch. You can run, and I know how many kilometers you run, et cetera, I know your heartbeat, but I don't know the iron loss, for example, and you can use like biodesign to understand and show to the end user. Or you can design a product, and this product evolved through bacteria. So for example, you can design a t-shirt, and this t-shirt through active bacteria start to open holes to favor the transpiration, for example. So you buy one t-shirt and you improve the capabilities of t-shirt and utilize bacteria as sensors, but also as actuator that custom-made and personalized products for you. Few more projects, a few more minutes, then I have some questions. One of the projects that I want to show, we've been working on knowledge transfer and learning. So today, if you want to learn something, like for example, how to utilize Arduinos, you go on YouTube, you download the YouTube videos and a tutorial, and you start to practice. What if you need to learn something pragmatic, like playing golf or like pottery? So we have utilized electromyography, and this was one of the brilliant students that worked with me, Guillermo Bernal, that basically did the work on exchanging muscular memory. So, you want to learn how to do pottery. So we started to try to understand how you can understand the muscular movement from one thing to another. Then we started to observe a master of pottery, trying to understand what he do, how he does things, and so on. And then we started to create a smart leaves that basically capture those movements and provide you some interfaces that teach you how to do stuff. So if you want to, again, do pottery, I can tell you. And this is actually when we started to test, where basically we started to test the viability of the system, where the master started to teach to the apprentice some of the movement as a way to support the learner into what he was doing. I will actually run through quickly the conclusions in basically saying successful Internet of Things need to rely on three things. One is to have an open platform. Second, to work across industries. And three, to provide secure transactions. They're the three elements that to me are relevant. Successful AI. The way we see is, first of all, human augmentation, not replacement. AI alone is very interesting. Humans alone can do a great job, but if you merge human action and AI computation capabilities, interesting. We're really in a proactive environment, so we're shifting from a reactive path into a proactive, as we saw for the Tesla car, as we can see for medicine, and so on. And third point, with artificial intelligence, answers are very cheap. Questions are the future. So, and actually, while we are in Spain, to utilize a nice provocation from Picasso, computers are useless. They only give you answers. But the truth is, you can Google everything that you want, but you need to know what to Google. So questions and how you are educated about that is important. So the final words is really, we go back to the value and we really work around human-centered design to support meaningful experiences. So we're not a technologically driven lab, but really human-driven lab. And then we really challenge our project with problem-making first and then problem-solving. Thank you for your attention. Gracias.
Tenemos tiempo para una sola pregunta.